Tonight on ABC News Live Prime, after months of battling and waiting, the Justice Department says millions of pages linked to the Jeffrey Epstein files are being released. Among what's now public, 2,000 videos and nearly 200,000 images. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche insisting the Justice Department is not protecting President Trump and insists the White House had no oversight in reviewing documents. What we're now learning about what has been released and what has not. Massive anti-ICE protests across the U.S., Minneapolis to Los Angeles to New York. It comes as federal agents arrest journalist Don Lemon over another recent anti-ICE protest he was covering. Demonstrators interrupting a church service in St. Paul. Authorities also arresting independent journalist Georgia Fort and the NAACP vice president. Chilling video showing what she says is a masked federal agent peering through her window. Another winter storm is on the way. The nor'easter set to hit the northeast, triggering states of emergency in multiple states. Plus, the extreme, life-threatening cold for more than 150 million. Our Lee Goldberg is tracking it all. Will Luigi Mangione face the death penalty? A judge rules on whether the accused CEO killer will face it as a date is set for jury selection and opening statements. ABC News investigates NASA's mission back to the moon. Why two former scientists at the space agency are sounding the alarm.
You'd rate it an F.
It's an F. It's a clear F.
Comedy icon Catherine O'Hara dies at the age of 71. Best known for her roles in Home Alone, the TV show Schitt's Creek, and most recently, The Studio. Tributes from devastated co-stars coming in.
Oh, I just finally cried myself to sleep.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is Prime with Linsey Davis.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Stephanie Ramos, in for Linsey Davis. Thank you for streaming with us. We begin this busy Friday night with a massive protest coast to coast and the arrest of journalist Don Lemon, who was just released a few moments ago.
I will not stop now. I will not stop ever.
That was Lemon moments after getting released late today. The arrest came after a recent anti-ICE protest he was covering where demonstrators interrupted a church service in St. Paul. Attorney General Pam Bondi said today the arrest came at her direction. Authorities also arrested independent journalist and NAACP Vice President Georgia Fort, capturing the moment a masked agent peers through her front window. And all day, tens of thousands of people in the streets of Minneapolis braved the brutal sub-zero cold, protesting against ICE and President Trump's immigration crackdown. And similar scenes playing out from Los Angeles to New York to Iowa. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche revealing the Justice Department is investigating the shooting death of Alex Preddy, including a civil rights investigation. ABC's Matt Rivers leads us off from Minneapolis.
Tonight, massive protests in Minneapolis. Tens of thousands marching through the streets of downtown.
People are out here taking to the streets, braving the bitter cold with a clear message. They don't approve of the ICE crackdown in their community.
Students walking out of class, some businesses closing in solidarity, part of nationwide so-called ICE out protests.
Our streets!
A sea of protesters from Minneapolis to Los Angeles to San Francisco and New York City. With tensions soaring, tonight the Justice Department now launching a federal investigation into the killing of ICU nurse Alex Preddy. The Deputy Attorney General acknowledging that includes a civil rights investigation.
We're looking at everything that would shed light on what happened that day and in the days and weeks leading up to what happened.
Pardon me, sir. Sorry about that.
And tonight, federal agents arresting former CNN anchor and now independent journalist Don Lemon and 3 more people in connection with this church protest in St. Paul, Minnesota.
Lights out! Lights out!
Anti-ICE protesters disrupting Sunday service nearly 2 weeks ago, where one of the pastors is also the director of an ICE field office. Lemon was inside covering that protest, interviewing church members.
I'm not part of the group. I'm just here photographing. I'm a journalist.
Sources telling ABC News Lemon was arrested at a Beverly Hills hotel overnight where he was covering the Grammy Awards. Authorities also arresting independent journalist Georgia Fort.
Agents are at my door right now.
She captured video showing masked agents peering through her front window.
We have
the journalist live streaming as she was taken into custody.
When you can just be arrested for being a member of the press, we've seen all these violations. All right, you guys, I got to go. They're knocking.
Late today, Fort was released from custody. Attorney General Pam Bondi saying the arrests happened at her direction, calling this in a social media post a, quote, coordinated attack at that church.
You have the right to worship freely and safely. And if I haven't been clear already, if you violate that sacred right, we are coming after you.
Lemon's legal team firing back, calling it an unprecedented attack on the First Amendment. A federal judge had previously rejected the DOJ's attempt to charge Lemon, finding no evidence of criminal behavior. And just moments ago, Lemon making his first court appearance in Los Angeles. The indictment just unsealed, alleging Lemon and others went into the church and occupied space, physically obstructing those inside. The judge ordering Lemon be released. Lemon addressing reporters outside court.
I have spent my entire career covering the news. I will not stop now. And I will not be silent. I look forward to my day in court.
Back here in Minneapolis tonight, tens of thousands taking to the streets, demanding change.
Are you hopeful things are going to change? Are you skeptical?
I'm hopeful and skeptical. I'm hopeful they'll change, but after listening to Trump this morning saying, no, they're not backing down, who do you believe? Holman or him? I don't know.
And Matt Rivers joins us now from Minneapolis. Matt, Don Lemon was just released. What was his message?
Yeah, Stephanie, he just came out after going through that process inside the court. He said a couple things, quote, I've been doing this for 30 years and I won't stop now. He also said, I will not be silenced. Interestingly enough, the government tried to take his passport away. They asked the judge to restrict his travel just to Minnesota and New York, but the judge didn't buy any of that, basically releasing him on his own recognizance. Stephanie?
All right, Matt, thank you so much. The Justice Department today dropped more than 3 million more pages from the Jeffrey Epstein files. Our team is diligently going through the material, which includes thousands of videos and images. Chief Justice correspondent Pierre Thomas has the latest details.
Tonight, the Justice Department releasing more than 3 million pages of documents from the FBI's investigation into sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche declaring they have now fully complied with the law.
Today's release marks the end of a very comprehensive document identification and review process to ensure transparency to the American people.
In a letter to Congress, Blanche and Attorney General Pam Bondi acknowledged approximately 200,000 pages have been redacted or withheld based on various privileges. DOJ says they're withholding nearly 3 million other documents for various reasons, including victim privacy, because they contain images of child sexual abuse. And critics point out today's release comes 40 days after DOJ was required by law to hand over the files. I asked the Deputy Attorney General, who used to be President Trump's personal lawyer, whether all material related to the president had been released. Trump and Epstein were friends in the 1990s before they had a falling out.
Can you assure the American public that President Trump, like every other prominent person whose name came up in relation to the Epstein files, that all documents, photos, and anything relevant to him connected to the case are being released?
I mean, yes, I can assure that we complied with the statute, we complied with the act, and there is no, we did not protect President Trump, we didn't protect or not protect anybody.
President Trump's name comes up thousands of times, mostly in news articles, but also in emails written by Epstein himself. Blanche today telling Fox News, in none of these communications, even when he's doing his best to disparage President Trump, did Epstein suggest President Trump had done anything criminal or had any inappropriate contact with any of his victims. The documents released today include records of unverified tips to investigators, including some uncorroborated information pertaining to President Trump, former President Clinton, and other high-profile individuals. Trump and Clinton have both denied any wrongdoing and any knowledge of Epstein's crimes. And the Justice Department said the tips led nowhere. The Deputy Attorney General insisting a review of the files did not uncover evidence anyone else should be charged with crimes.
I don't think that the public or you all are going to uncover men within the Epstein files that abuse women, unfortunately.
Today's release did offer evidence of Epstein's relationships with the rich and powerful, including Elon Musk. In a number of emails, Musk and Epstein seemed to be discussing plans for Musk to visit Epstein's private island in the Caribbean. In one 2012 email, Musk asking, "What day night will be the wildest party on your island?" Musk says he never went to the island. The files released today indicate President Trump's current Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, apparently did plan a visit to Epstein's island. The men were neighbors in Manhattan. Lutnick recently said that in 2005, he decided he did not want anything to do with Epstein.
My wife and I decided that I will never be in the room with that disgusting person ever again. Really? So I was never in the room with him socially, for business, or even philanthropy. If that guy was there, I wasn't going because he's gross.
But the newly released documents indicate that 7 years later, when Lutnick was visiting the Caribbean with his wife and other friends and family, he apparently emailed looking to set up a dinner on Epstein's island, writing, "Does Sunday evening sound good?" A few days later, Epstein's assistant sending Lutnick this message, "Jeffrey wished me to pass along the below to you. Nice seeing you." Tonight, a group of Epstein survivors releasing this statement. The release of Jeffrey Epstein's files is being sold as transparency, but what it actually does is expose survivors. Once again, survivors are having their names and identifying information exposed, while the men who abused us remain hidden and protected. That is outrageous. As survivors, we should never be the ones named, scrutinized, re-traumatized, while Epstein's enablers continue to benefit from secrecy. This is a betrayal of the very people this process is supposed to serve.
Pierre Thomas joins us now. Pierre, has the Justice Department responded to the survivors' concerns you just mentioned?
Well, the Deputy Attorney General predicted with such a large volume of material, there would be mistakes. He says the department has put in place a way for victims to contact DOJ for immediate redactions and other fixes, Stephanie.
Those files released more than 2 months after President Trump signed a bill requiring their release. Pierre Thomas for us there in Washington. Thanks, Pierre.
Pleasure.
Also tonight, we're tracking a major new storm set to hit the East Coast, a potential nor'easter and possible blizzard conditions for the Carolinas, up to a foot of snow in parts of the South. But will the storm make it into the Northeast? Here in New York City, take a look. The cold causing cables to fall from elevated tracks in Brooklyn onto cars below. Let's get right to meteorologist Lee Goldberg. Lee, what's the timing looking like on all of this?
So the Northeast gets spared, Stephanie, which is great news, but it's this punishing cold air that's driving the storm development. Winter storm warnings, Carolinas. That also includes Georgia, parts of Virginia. And look at the extreme cold alerts from New Orleans all the way to West Palm Beach. Unbelievable chill headed to Florida. So the storm really blossoms tomorrow. Heavy snow, Augusta, Raleigh, Norfolk. Later in the day in the evening hours, maybe even blizzard conditions. But the storm doesn't hug the coast. It veers to the northeast, so it brushes Cape Cod, maybe a couple of flakes eastern Long Island, but largely spares the northeast. Just some wind, some minor coastal flooding. We see 6 to 12 inches of snow across parts of the Carolinas, again, blizzard conditions, and then the severe cold in its wake. 0 to sub-zero temperatures from New York to D.C. It feels like 26 on Sunday morning in Miami. And Stephanie, there might be some Gulf effect snow showers into Tampa later tomorrow. Back to you.
And I have already heard from my family in Miami. They cannot believe the temperatures headed their way. Lee, thank you so much. A federal judge ruled today that Luigi Mangione will not face the death penalty. Mangione's federal trial is now slated to start this fall. The 27-year-old is accused of killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Chief investigative correspondent Eric Katursky has these details.
Tonight, accused killer Luigi Mangione no longer faces the possibility of the death penalty. The judge dismissed a federal murder charge today, so at most, Mangione could be sentenced to life in prison if he's convicted in the 2024 assassination-style killing of United Healthcare chief Brian Thompson.
What was Mr. Mangione's reaction when he learned the death penalty was off the table?
We're all very relieved.
Mangione has pleaded not guilty to stalking Thompson, approaching him from behind outside a Manhattan hotel and shooting him in cold blood.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
He was arrested 5 days later at a Pennsylvania McDonald's. Tonight, the judge also decided the search of his backpack was proper and prosecutors could use evidence retrieved from it, including the alleged murder weapon and writings prosecutors say amount to a confession.
How much of a setback is it that the judge is going to allow the contents of the backpack at trial?
We're prepared and have been prepared to fight this case, and we look forward to fighting this case.
Our thanks to Aaron Katursky. Just a short time ago, the Senate passed its version of a bill to fund the government. It now moves to the House, which is expected to vote Monday evening. Now, the effects of any partial government shutdown this weekend are therefore expected to be minimal. And today, President Trump announced his pick of a new chair of the Independent Federal Reserve, selecting former Fed Governor Kevin Warsh. Warsh would replace current Fed Chair Jerome Powell, who President Trump has repeatedly criticized over interest rates. Powell would first need to be fired for cause. Here's our Rachel Scott.
Tonight, President Trump announcing his pick to take over as chair of the Independent Federal Reserve, former Fed Governor Kevin Warsh.
He's very smart, very good, strong, young, pretty young. I mean, he was the central casting guy that people wanted.
Warsh would replace the current Fed chair, Jerome Powell, who President Trump has repeatedly targeted over interest rates. But first, Warsh would have to be confirmed by the Senate. And the Trump administration is still facing backlash for launching an unprecedented criminal investigation into Powell over testimony he gave about the cost of building renovations at the Fed. An investigation Powell says is part of a pressure campaign to get him to lower rates. Republican Senator Tom Tillis warning he plans to join Democrats in opposing any Fed nomination until the DOJ's inquiry into Chairman Powell is fully and transparently resolved. Our Karen Travers pressing the president, did Warsh promise to cut interest rates?
Did Kevin Warsh commit to you that he will push to cut interest rates if he is confirmed?
No, but we talk about it, and I've been following him, and I don't want to ask him that question. I think it's inappropriate, probably. It probably would be allowed, but I want to keep it nice and pure. But he certainly wants to cut rates. I've been watching him for a long time.
Joining us now to dive deeper into this matter is Dennis Lockhart, who is the former president and CEO of the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta. Mr. Lockhart, thank you so much for joining us tonight on Prime. Really appreciate your time. First question, is there a chance the DOJ investigation into Jerome Powell comes up empty and then President Trump won't be legally allowed to remove him for cause? If that happens, if the DOJ comes up empty, what then?
Well, I'm certainly not a legal expert on this, but I think the path that's likely to go down is that the investigation will peter out and it will be withdrawn and the confirmation of Kevin Warsh will proceed. Certainly hope that is the case, but the two senators who have stood up on this question may very well stand by their position and delay the confirmation of Warsh.
We know the president has limited say here and can only remove Powell for cause, hence the DOJ investigation. Why is the president's power here limited, if you could break that down to us? And related to that, why is the Fed's independence so important?
You know, the Fed independence issue or principle is one that has been studied around the world by economists and policymakers, and the conclusion has been that almost every society that has an independent central bank is better off in the long run in terms of inflation, in terms of economic performance. So it's a really fundamental principle, and it has been attacked in recent months, and the investigation of Jerome Powell, in my opinion, is a very transparent effort to intimidate and try to force rates lower when that's not the wish at the moment of the Federal Open Market Committee.
And we had heard that for the last couple of months, this back and forth, the president wanting to lower that interest rate. But would you say that his power in this situation is limited?
I think it probably is limited. The DOJ investigation will run its course, and as I said, I don't expect it will amount to anything. I think what we're really looking at as a scenario here is Kevin Warsh will go to the Hill for confirmation, and he will be confirmed. I think he's a very confirmable candidate or nominee. And then Jay Powell will leave the scene at sometime later in the spring.
And speaking of Kevin Warsh, he has heaped praise on President Trump, called for, quote, regime change at the Fed, and has also supported lower interest rates. He seems really eager to please the president. Is that a potential liability for our economy and even the global economy? Would that be a problem?
It certainly would if he really comes across as taking instruction, taking direction from the White House on what should be an independently arrived at policy decision by the committee. But one thing to remember is it is a committee process, and even a chair cannot dictate what policy is going to be. So I think he will have to walk a little bit of a tightrope between the pressure that President Trump and the White House may be putting on him and the fact that he has to deal with colleagues who have to agree to with the decision, and the current body language, if you will, of the committee is that they want to stand pat for a while and not lower rates any further.
Right. It's definitely a complex process. We will see how this plays out. Dennis Lockhart, former president and CEO of the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Coming up here on Prime, one of Team USA's most recognizable stars airlifted from the slopes after a crash. We'll have the latest on Lindsey Vohn's condition coming up. And the concern about NASA's first crewed mission around the moon in more than 50 years. Two former scientists at the space agency raising a red flag, why they say the mission is tempting fate, and how NASA is responding. And next, a look back at the life of comedy icon Catherine O'Hara as we dive into her most memorable roles. Welcome back. Award-winning actress and comedy legend Catherine O'Hara died today after a brief illness. Her career spanned decades with memorable roles in films like Beetlejuice and Home Alone, as well as series like the TV show Schitt's Creek and more recently The Studio. Chris Connolly will join us shortly to discuss her legacy. But first, ABC World News Tonight anchor David Muir remembers the beloved actress.
It's not here. Kevin's not here.
Catherine O'Hara was a comedic icon. Her grace, her wit, her physical comedy. O'Hara, an Emmy-winning actress, charming audiences for decades.
This wine is all full. Give me another glass.
Generations falling in love with her characters. She was the perfect, imperfect mother.
I'm pretty sure parents are supposed to put their children before themselves.
Oh, really? No, if airplane safety videos have taught me anything, David, it's that a mother puts her own mask on first.
Born and raised in Canada, she rose to fame there as part of the Second City Toronto comedy group.
Oh, look, an indoor outhouse.
Her breakout role in Beetlejuice in 1988.
I would rather talk about
that song and dance scene. It was on that movie set she would meet her husband, Bo Welch, a production designer, and Johnny Carson would ask about him.
Is this your boyfriend?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and I don't want to get too personal, but...
Then don't.
Then perhaps her most famous role as the mother who forgot her son on Home Alone.
Did you close the garage?
That's it. I forgot to close the garage, that's it.
No, that's not it.
What else could we be forgetting?
Kevin!
She forgot her son when they left on vacation and then spent the whole movie trying to get back home to him.
Look, I have been awake for almost 60 hours. I'm tired and I'm dirty. I've been from Chicago to Paris to Dallas to... Where the hell am I?
Scranton.
I am trying to get home to my 8-year-old son.
Ma'am, if...
And I don't care if I have to get out on your runway and hitchhike. If it costs me everything I own. If I have to sell my soul to the devil himself. I am going to get home to my son.
She would stay connected with actor Macaulay Culkin.
Oh, thanks, Mama. Oh, darling baby.
Years later, with him when he got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, reminiscing about one of those scenes.
The scene where I had to drag him upstairs to sleep in the attic because he'd misbehaved.
I didn't want to see you again for the rest of my whole life.
I was supposed to say, then say it again. Maybe it'll happen.
And I can't tell you how much that killed me. I could not wrap my head around saying something so horrific to this beautiful child. Of course, I was not yet a mother at the time, and I had no idea the kind of things that would come out of my mouth with my own 2 sons.
Catherine O'Hara's career spanning decades. The largely improvised movie Best in Show in 2000.
She was very popular back then. She had dozens of boyfriends.
Hundreds.
Actor Eugene Levy playing her husband, back together years later on Schitt's Creek.
Be careful, John, lest you suffer vertigo from the dizzying heights of your moral ground.
Husband and wife again.
So good of you to come.
John said we had no choice.
She would win an Emmy for that role.
Oh, and are the pillows feather or foam?
Yes.
Sorry, which one?
I don't care.
And just last year, she would earn 2 more Emmy nominations, one for The Last of Us and one for her role in Seth Rogen's The Studio.
Who are all these people? I don't recognize any of them.
They're influencers. Most of them don't even go inside. They just make their red carpet TikToks and leave.
We learned today that Catherine O'Hara died at home in Los Angeles following a brief illness. Tonight here, Catherine O'Hara in her own words.
Great at my age to be able to be goofy and have fun like this, and I should be so lucky to have that opportunity to still be doing that kind of, this kind of silliness.
So many classic moments. Our thanks to David Muir. For more on Catherine O'Hara's legacy, we're joined by ABC News contributor Chris Connolly. Chris, great to have you. Catherine O'Hara had such a long and rich career, from these classic films to prominent roles right up to her passing. And her passing today came as such a shock to so many people. What do you think her overall legacy will be?
I really think the fact that she had the most talent of anyone and the smallest ego of anyone. She was so special in terms of how she could play these over-the-top, self-involved characters, and yet, as you could see, was not at all self-involved or over-the-top in her own life. And I think people treasured the opportunity to work with her. I think audiences loved her, and I think everyone in the entertainment community just absolutely adored her, not just as a performer they wanted to emulate or whose career they admired, but as a human being who was really special with amazing values. And so I think the great loss that's being felt around Hollywood today has a lot to do not just with Catherine O'Hara's body of work, which is amazing and goes back more than 40 years, with who she was as a human being. And that loss is immeasurable.
And it's so wonderful to see just how connected she was to some of her past co-stars, like Macaulay Culkin we saw there when he was receiving his star on the Walk of Fame in Hollywood. We mentioned some of her standout roles in Beetlejuice, personally my favorite movie growing up as a kid. Her standout roles in Home Alone and Schitt's Creek. What was it about her that made her so memorable in these projects and others?
She was just magnificently gifted. I mean, you put her up there with the absolute best of the people who did what she did. You're talking about people like, Lucille Ball and Julia Louis-Dreyfus and Kathryn Hahn, and just outstanding actors in movies and television who are just great comedically. She had this amazing ability to inhabit these characters, and even if they were over the top or self-involved, you really kind of went with them. You cared about them. And in a way, Moira Rose was the crystallization of so much of what she'd done going back to SCTV in the early 80s. These, very deeply self-involved, and I guess what she said is she loves to play characters that didn't always give the impression of understanding how other people responded to them. That was Moira Rose all the way, and yet people adored her. And I think her performance got people through the pandemic, in a way that is hard to kind of quantify. And I think that's why a lot of people treasure her so much today.
Absolutely. She will certainly be missed. Chris Connolly, thank you so much. Thanks for your take. Really appreciate it. Coming up here on ABC News Live Prime, a new $1 coin will honor an Indigenous woman who helped George Washington's army in the Revolutionary War. That's coming up next. And also Roxy Diaz is with us. She is live on the red carpet as Grammys weekend gets underway. And Mariah Carey is honored as the Music Cares Person of the Year. Welcome back to Prime. Here's a look at the stories making headlines right now. Anti-ICE protests took place across the country after the fatal shootings of Renee Good and Alex Preddy by federal agents in Minneapolis this month. The demonstrations today called for no work, no school, no shopping in protest of the Trump administration's immigration crackdown. This comes as the Justice Department said it is opening a civil rights investigation into the shooting death of Alex Preddy. The Justice Department today is releasing more than 3 million more pages linked to the Jeffrey Epstein files. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche said the material includes 2,000 videos and 180,000 images. Blanche said in total there were 6 million documents, but due to the presence of child sexual abuse material and victim rights obligations, not all documents are being made public in the current release. And we're learning new details about the plane crash that killed retired NASCAR driver Greg Biffle and 6 others. According to an NTSB preliminary report, Biffle was not flying his own jet and concluded that while an experienced pilot was at the controls, no one else on board was qualified to be the required co-pilot. The report also states the pilot's gauges, including his altimeter, were giving wrong readings shortly after takeoff. The pilot tried to return to a North Carolina airport just after takeoff last month when it crashed just short of the runway. Coming up here on Prime, NASA is gearing up for the first crewed journey to the moon in over half a century. Why some experts are raising a red flag and how NASA is responding. And a Florida couple is suing an IVF clinic over an embryo mix-up. That story coming up next. Now to an ABC News investigation into the mission back to the moon. NASA's Artemis II is set to send astronauts around the moon for the first time in more than 50 years. But now 2 former scientists at the space agency are sounding the alarm. Elizabeth Schulze has an in-depth look in tonight's Prime Focus.
Mission's full power and liftoff.
Space exploration is inherently risky. On that, nearly everyone agrees. But for the upcoming Artemis II mission, the first people to travel to the moon since Apollo 17 in 1972,
I've never put a flag up in the moon before.
There's disagreement about whether the risk is worth taking.
In your view right now, is it safe for astronauts, humans, to go on this mission on Artemis II?
I would say no.
The Artemis II mission could launch as soon as next month.
The real stars of the show here, the Artemis II crew.
With 4 crew members, 3 Americans and a Canadian, set to complete the 10-day journey in the Orion spacecraft, more than 600,000 miles to the moon and back. But 2 veteran NASA scientists now tell ABC News they believe there are serious safety risks with the spacecraft.
I hope the mission is successful, but if there's another disaster like Challenger or Columbia, that's going to set us back years.
Daniel Rasky retired in December after working as an engineer specializing in thermal heat systems at NASA for more than 30 years. Charlie Camarda is a former director of engineering at NASA with decades of research experience and a retired astronaut who flew on the space shuttle.
Is this what you both expected to be doing, speaking out about in retirement?
No.
Their key concern centers on the Orion spacecraft's heat shield, a system designed to protect astronauts from the extreme heat when they re-enter the atmosphere. They say the heat shield uses a material from the 1960s that cracked during the uncrewed Artemis I test flight in 2022, a finding highlighted in a 2024 publicly released report by NASA's Inspector General that was reviewed by Rasky.
I have to say, from the data I've seen with regard to this heat shield, if I had to rate it A, B, C, D, I'd rate it an F.
You'd rate it an F?
It's an F. It's a clear F. Clear. And there's no way you put crew on an F heat shield. You are just tempting fate.
Why does it matter if there are cracks in a heat shield?
Pieces of heat shield coming off mean that you're close to complete failure. You're at the edge of a cliff on a foggy day, and you don't know which way to move. You might go off the cliffs. In fact, actually, one argument NASA made after Artemis I was the vehicle survived. Okay, you didn't quite go off the cliff this time, but you're close.
You're both worried they could go off the cliff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that it's guaranteed to fail. It means You're right on the edge of this cliff, and you don't know which way to move that could lead to catastrophic development.
Rasky says there are better options available for the heat shield. He points to the material SpaceX uses on its Dragon spacecraft as far superior to the 6 decades-old technology being used for Artemis II.
Why would you do this? Why would you use a very old technology when there's much better options available now?
Welcome to our briefing today.
During a pre-launch press conference this month, NASA acknowledged that the Artemis II heat shield has what they called limitations.
We understand the limitations of the heat shield on Artemis II, and it's incumbent upon us to fly within those limitations.
We asked the man in charge of the spacecraft, Howard Hugh, about the engineer's concerns.
Crew safety is paramount, and our ability to fly our crew safely and ensure their mission success is what we do every day. And I think about it every night, every day, every waking hour.
Hugh told us that NASA conducted an 18-month investigation on the heat shield and identified the root cause of the problem. He said NASA then changed Orion's return course so the astronauts spend less time in high heat zones.
As part of that investigation, they were able to determine that there was limitations that we could take on this current heat shield on Artemis II that would be safe.
In a statement to ABC News, NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman added, "After a thorough, independent, and data-driven review, I have full confidence in Orion's heat shield and in the team behind it. NASA engineers and safety experts followed the evidence, challenged every assumption, and applied disciplined engineering judgment to understand the anomaly and mitigate remaining risk." Camarda says he raised his concerns about the risks of the revised re-entry plan, including the heat shield, directly with the NASA administrator earlier this month at a meeting.
What was your reaction to that meeting?
Shock, a little bit of rage, because it wasn't just the same behaviors. These were the same people that were making the same bad predictions during Columbia and after Columbia.
Former astronaut and engineer Danny Olivas was also in that meeting.
What I will say is that I came in as a skeptic, and that's kind of my very nature is like, you got to prove it to me.
But after the meeting, he posted on social media, "NASA had a very difficult problem to solve, but I'm pleased to share that the team did an outstanding job of working the problem." We asked Olivas, who's a NASA Advisory Council member and volunteered to be an independent technical reviewer for the heat shield, what changed his mind about its safety.
After reviewing the data, I became convinced that the team had done their due diligence. And while it's not without risk, they have done a lot to mitigate that risk.
As a skeptic, you're convinced enough for this mission to move forward.
I am confident in the heat shield today. If you asked me, at the beginning of this program, would I fly on Orion? I would have said no, for the reasons that I was skeptical. But as I sit here today, the answer is yes. And my input to the crew is have a good flight.
Would you have these same concerns regardless of what the administration was? Is this a Democratic or a Republican issue?
No. NASA's been degrading for over 40 years. It's not political. This is a bipartisan mess up.
Camarda says that for years and across different administrations, he's been pushing back on a culture at the space agency that he says stifles disagreement and dissent.
Right now, we have a psychologically unsafe culture at NASA where people are afraid to speak up. When I recognized and I told people that, hey, there's a problem with this analysis. It can't predict failure. It's not physics-based. No one said a word. There was silence.
Hugh, who spent more than 3 decades at NASA, disagrees.
This is one thing I love about NASA. We speak the truth. When I say we speak truth, it's backed by data. And when people speak up, we bring forward our concerns. They're listened to. That is what people expect. That is the culture we live in.
The engineers told us they don't want to see a tragedy like we saw with Columbia or Challenger. Can NASA confidently say it's done everything in its power at this point, given those risks, to avoid a tragedy like that?
We confidently would say that. I think to a person that was part of the investigation, the technical team, I would say, would definitely say that.
For Rasky and Camarda, they say their goal is not to stop the Artemis II mission altogether, but to do it without putting a crew at risk. They suggest sending robots in place of human astronauts.
Why risk crew on this mission? You could fly robotic crew and get all the information that they need.
They have made a significant amount of progress.
Olivas told us that humans are essential because they provide unique interactions you can't get from robots. These two engineers say their personal mission is to course correct the culture at NASA, focusing more on research and development, encouraging open conversations, and creating an environment that can win the next 50 years of the space race.
They absolutely don't need to listen to us. They don't have to listen to us. But the path that we are currently on with the Artemis program is not a good path. We should never have come to this point.
If you were not ready, you would not go.
If we're not ready, there is no way. I will be the first person to stand up and say we are not ready to go. And I won't be the only one.
I lost 3 classmates, 7 friends on Columbia. And so, I get very emotional. I understand we take risks, but we don't have to take unnecessary risks. And I'm praying for the crew because I don't want to see that happen.
Our thanks to Elizabeth Schulze for that report. Coming up here on Prime, the superstar American Olympian injured on her last run before the Milan Olympics. And the latest honor for Bad Bunny. Stay with us. Linsey Vonn is airlifted after crashing at a pre-Olympic event. Drug overdose deaths see their largest year-over-year decrease ever. And a brand new $1 coin pays homage to a Native American woman who helped George Washington's army. These stories and more in tonight's rundown. U.S. skier Linsey Vonn was involved in a violent crash during her last race before next week's Winter Olympics. Vonn had to be airlifted from a downhill course in Switzerland. Before being airlifted, she did receive medical attention for nearly 5 minutes and was able to slowly ski to the finish line. 6 years after her most recent Olympics, the 3-time medalist came out of retirement in 2024 to rejoin the U.S. ski team. Bad Bunny can add another accolade to his already stellar career. The Puerto Rican-born singer was named the #1 pop star of 2025 by Billboard. His 30-show San Juan residency over the summer generated huge demand, selling 400,000 tickets in just 4 hours. And he's set to take the stage at the Super Bowl halftime show next weekend. A couple from Central Florida is seeking answers after delivering a baby that is not biologically theirs. According to a lawsuit, the mother was impregnated using IVF and delivered a healthy baby girl. But the couple quickly realized the baby did not resemble either parent, and genetic testing confirmed the newborn shared no biological relation to the parents. The Longwood clinic that created the embryos has acknowledged the mistake. Drug overdose deaths in the U.S. saw their largest ever year-over-year drop, decreasing 26% between 2023 and 2024. That's according to a new CDC report. Researchers reviewing annual government data found drops occurred across all subcategories of opioids and stimulants. The report does not explain why overdose deaths went down, but likely contributors include increased access to the anti-overdose drug naloxone and longer-term treatment options for addicts. In other medical news, life expectancy in the U.S. rose to 79 years in 2024, an all-time high, according to new data from the CDC's National Center for Health Statistics. Women continue to live longer than men, with an average life expectancy of 81.4 years compared to 76.5 years for men. The increase was largely driven by fewer deaths from cancer and COVID-19. A new $1 U.S. coin will feature Polly Cooper, an indigenous woman from the Oneida tribe who helped George Washington's Continental Army during the Revolutionary War. Cooper will appear on the reverse side of the Sacagawea $1 coin and features Cooper offering Washington a basket of corn. In 1778, Cooper and a group of Oneida warriors delivered food and supplies across what is now central New York to starving troops stationed at Valley Forge in Pennsylvania. In a statement, the tribe said they were proud of Cooper's accomplishments. It's a star-studded week for music in Los Angeles as celebrations have kicked off leading up to music's biggest night, the 68th annual Grammy Awards. Tonight, the annual Music Cares Gala, which raises money for the music community in times of need, is honoring their Person of the Year, the one and only Mariah Carey. They're honoring her for her exceptional contribution to the music industry, creative achievements, and dedication to philanthropic causes. Live on the red carpet is our very own Roxy Diaz, our very own Mariah Carey, because I know you got those singing chops in you. I know you can hit some of those notes.
I can't hit them at all.
But don't worry,
she would be very upset with me if I even tried to, Stephanie.
You can spare us for right now, but maybe at another time. But we'll trust me, she's good. Okay, Roxy, tell us a little bit more about Music Cares as a foundation, and I can already hear the buzz around you. It's pretty active there on the red carpet.
The red carpet is starting to amp up a little bit. I have my red carpet sisters here right now. We're starting to kick things up in gear. But, you know, Music Cares is such a beautiful foundation. It helps musicians that are in need as well. It also, you know, shines light on those artists that are out there doing a lot of philanthropy work and raising money and raising awareness for music funds. So it's a beautiful thing to be able to come here and then honor one of the most iconic voices that we've heard ever in our lifetime, which is Mariah Carey. And she's going to be surrounded by so many of her friends and her family and her lambs. They're all going to be here to cheer her on tonight as the Person of the Year.
Giving her flowers. And this is just the beginning of Grammy weekend, right? With the telecast happening Sunday evening. I will be watching, and we've got some global superstars that are expected to win big. We've been talking about this the last couple of days. Bad Bunny, Sabrina Carpenter, and guest performances by Justin Bieber, and most recently announced Bruno Mars. I mean, that is quite the lineup. Tell us, what can music fans expect? Do you have any predictions?
Honestly, I think there's going to be a lot of collaborations on Sunday night. As you can see, I mean, Bruno Mars was just added about a couple of hours ago. So I think up until show day, we're going to keep on getting those surprises. But I'm super excited to see Justin Bieber hit the big stage one more time for the Grammys after a 4-year hiatus. And then there's a lot of newcomers that are going to be nominated too and that are having big nights, like Leon Thomas, who's nominated for 8 nominations. And then Kendrick Lamar, who's leading the nominations with 9 nominations. And I think that even though last year was a big year for Kendrick, I think this year's Grammys is going to be another big year for Kendrick as well.
And next year will be a big year for us. Actually, the Grammys will be exclusively simulcast on ABC, Hulu, and Disney+. Roxy, you have a blast. Great to see you. You have a very busy weekend ahead, but lots of fun, I'm sure. Well, I'll be looking at your Instagram to see what you're posting behind the scenes.
Well, I'll be waiting for you to hit those Mariah Carey notes because I know you can do it, Stephanie Ramos.
Okay, well, thank you. Maybe just a little bit. Not as much as Mariah Carey. Thank you. And that is our show for this hour. I'm Stephanie Ramos. Stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thank you for streaming with us. Stay safe.